black jewelry. I know I stand out, I don't need a try for it. I jack the limelight if you thinking, hey, quick, tell them catch me if you can on some gingerbread. Oh, I never ride solo. It's me and my chick looking like slow-mo.
Hey guys, it's Vince Bugs here. I'm down at Tampa as always. I got Dr. Kelly on. We're going to talk a little bit about education, but I also want to talk about her inspiring books that she has out, and she is in the cold state of Illinois. So I just want to know, how are you doing, Dr. Kelly?
I'm doing great. Having a great day. The pre-conversation with you has got me revved up and ready to keep going, Vince.
Oh, I appreciate it. So can you give everybody a little bit of background about yourself and your little historical background?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Brandi Kelly, and I have been in public education for 24 years. I went from a school social worker. I worked as a school social worker at Effingham School District for 11 years. And then I got my dream job, Vince. I was able to go back to my school that I graduated from, and I was the principal at Ramsey Grade School.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was my dream job. That's where I thought I would retire. But you know that old saying, you make plans and God laughs. Well, he moved me on, and I worked as a principal close to Decatur, Illinois, for another 6 years before I went into the superintendency. And when I went into the superintendency, I saw education in a different light. And if I'm being 100% transparent, I had climbed the ladder all those years. By the time I left education, it was 24 years. And I was contemplating, what do I want at this point in my life? And I wanted something different. I wasn't content. I wasn't happy with where I was. I am definitely a disruptor. I want to see things change. I want to see results, and I want to see us do better for our kids. I get really passionate about that because we live in a world right now where our kids are struggling. Mental health is at all-time highs, and I believe that we need hope more than we ever have in the past. And so after 24 years in education, I left my role as a superintendent, and I started a new business, when I should have been planning for retirement, starting over. And I am the founder, the owner of H.O.P.E EDU. I'm doing speaking and coaching, and I'm really enjoying this season of life.
Well, so you bring up like a lot of points here. And so what I'd like to ask you is, as the evolution of education is going on, and we've done the standardized tests, and we've done No Child Left Behind, and it's just the mantra goes on and on and on with the buzzwords. But why is there such a major decline in the three fields that we should be really focused on: science, math, and technology? It seems like, or English, excuse me. But it seems like there has been a massive decline in those three areas. And then STEM, now you can add that fourth area in there because we're so into technology now, robotics. But if for the American student, and I'm not talking about the students that come in from the H-1B visas or whatever that, but I'm talking about the traditional American student that is born, raised here in America. They have had a massive fall off in education. And why is that, do you think?
It goes back to my book. I talk about a system of self-efficacy in my first book, Lead with Hope. And that, in my experience, is why there are so many issues in public education. We are throwing new things at educators every single day. They have initiative fatigue. There's not a clearly outlined system so that they can build on what they have. It's, this week we're focused on this initiative. Next week, we're talking about a new initiative. It's just constantly. And so I think as educators now, they're kind of taking a step back, and instead of being early adopters and really putting their whole self into something, they're very skeptical because we can't just keep adding things to their plate without taking something off. I believe that we need to disrupt education as we know it right now. And we need to go back to the drawing board and reimagine what it can look like with a focus on human intelligence. There's so much AI and we have all of these resources with AI, which is great. I think we need to utilize that, but we need to keep the human being at the center and focus on what the human being needs and make investments in growing the adults in our organization in a way that is going to support the student learning.
Wow. And, so you really touched on the point for like Albert Einstein states is that when we were children, we're very creative and we see the world. And then after we move to become adults, we become stagnant. And for some reason, we lose our creativity. Yeah. And so what I've seen though, from my teaching experience and working at, at the university level, I see passionate teachers start out with creative ideas, and I watch their ideas get diminished by another generation that's sitting in the senior seats at the education level. So you have this passionate person that has a creative idea to just, to touch the hearts of the kids. What do they call it? The Patch, the guy from the movie with Robin Williams, where he was the doctor, that Patch Adams, I think what it was. So they come in with that kind of that Patch kind of ideas. And then they get into the school system, and I watch them year after year after year just look to when they can drop their papers. And that's not how it's supposed to be. It should be that you are running to the finish line, and every year, you want to show more creativity. So why do you think we have such a major problem where there's a stifling of teachers that don't get that mentorship that years ago that used to be there from the late 70s and, the early 80s to where did that go? Because it seems like it's just non-existent now. Everything's a metric.
Yeah. I talk a lot about the inner critic in my book. I talk about what motivates people, and fear oftentimes is the thing that gets in our way. Fear limits us. It creates limiting beliefs. It creates the inner critic. It creates the obstacles. And if we don't see pathways to get through those obstacles, we retreat, we shrink, we quiet ourselves. And so I think our system as it stands in education promotes that fear. And so people aren't speaking up. They're not advocating for themselves for a number of reasons. And I want to help condition our teachers and our leaders to choose hope. If we choose hope, we see belief that other people can make change happen. If we choose hope, we have that belief and we're fostering that each and every day. If we choose fear, we're going to continue to get what we've got. And fear, it reaps that overwhelming, the overwhelm, the stress.
Right.
And so, for me, it's a mindset issue, and it's what you choose. And if you take action, hope without action is just wishful thinking, Vince. Let's be really honest about this.
Let's be transparent.
That's right. So we have to choose hope, but then we have to take action and move forward. And if we can work together and take that action, that meaningful action, we can start small and make change. But unfortunately, what I've seen in schools is that we don't start small. We take this grandiose idea and we try to reinvent everything at the same time. And that's what leads to the fear, the overwhelm, the burnout. I was just at a meeting this morning, and something like 44 million teachers are going to be needed in 2030.
Wow.
We have to start small and start meeting that need now.
Yeah, and you're making a valid point. Is like we see the military. So I was in the military for 30 years. We saw that when we were cutting back, that we were going to be losing operators at certain levels. And it was like we were speaking to ourselves, talking to senior leadership. So we didn't get rid of, so, and I just had this on another podcast, and I said this, we have a tendency not to clean up the head leadership to fix the bottom leadership. So the thing is, I'll go back to Albert Einstein again. You cannot solve a problem using the way the ideas you used yesterday for today.
Right.
And so as long as you're saying people are sitting at the head shed, you're still going to have a culmination of the this is the way we've always done it, and this is the way it works, even though evolutionary. Your society's changing. That you got a different group of people. So it's not the same group you had 30 years ago, 40 years ago. You have a new group that comes in, but they don't function well under the old regime. And I'm seeing it play out all the regular time with an education. So, you touched on something that I wanted to talk about. So what inspired you, Dr. Kelly, to write your book, Lead with Hope? And, what weighed on you in the idea that made you want to do this? Because when did you decided you just woke up and decided to be an author now?
No, actually, whenever COVID hit, it was the heaviness of life. I started blogging for a company called Teach Better, and I wrote a 4-part series, Why Hope Matters. Hope to me is habits, optimistic outlook. That's that mindset piece, purpose, passion, perseverance, and excellence. So it is a framework that helps us to focus and act on our habits, our mindset, our purpose, and really get clear about what excellence means to us. Because what I have seen in my life and in my leadership, sometimes personally, sometimes for the people that I have worked with and the people that I have led, is we all have default settings. We all have default settings. And if we are not intentional and purposeful, sometimes those default settings cause us to go in a direction that we don't want to go.
Wow. True.
And life can get heavy. I'll just use my own personal experience. When I was 15, my brother Brandon drowned. It changed our family tremendously. And then 9 years later, my mom died of cancer. I'm the oldest child, so I took care of her when in her last days. And all that while, I'm going to high school, going to college, getting married, raising a family. And what I came to realize, Vince, is that life and leadership are not separate. We have to lead from the inside out, and we have to be cognizant of the adversity that we're carrying in life. And adversity can either cause us to get bitter, or it can deepen our sense of purpose. What happened when Brandon drowned? Fast forward, when I was in college, I realized that the people that showed up for our family, they showed me what hope looks like. None of us reach success alone. We need other people. And if we are selective about the people that we surround ourselves with, it's going to help bring out the best in us. We need other people, absolutely need other people in our lives. And so as I started writing that blog, one thing led to the other. I started writing down stories about when I was a school social worker and some of the kids that had lost hope, and how we were able to utilize some mindset tools, or they were able to implement habits. And I share those stories in my book. And one thing led to the other. And to be really honest with you, it was through the editing phase of my book that everything kind of came to a head for me. It was very overwhelming and very stressful. And I took some time off, and I decided during that time off that I would leave the superintendency, because what I realized is all the while I was striving from social worker to superintendent, doing all of the things, trying to make all this change, I had become disconnected with who God created me to be.
Wow.
So I took a step back, and this past year, I've been getting really clear on how I can add value to the world, and I can connect with my purpose. And I'm doing that now through speaking and coaching, and it brings so much joy. But for those listeners out there who are going through life, and maybe you're in autopilot or you're in the drift, right?
Right.
I would encourage you to take a step back. And it may not be quitting your job like I did. You don't have to go to those drastic means, but I would encourage you to just take some time, unplug from technology, and think about Who did God create you to be? Who are you outside of the roles, outside of the titles and the accomplishments and the expectations? What really, lights you up? What do you get passionate about when you talk about? And make sure you're doing something each and every day that connects with your purpose and your passion, because that is how we continue to make an impact in our world today.
Wow, Dr. Kelly, that was beautiful. And I want to thank you for sharing such a personal story, because same kind of results on my side back in the day. So totally understand how you go from tragedy to reshaping how you receive the world. Because I mean, a lot of people, they don't come out of the pain cave once they go in there and then see that you came out of the pain cave. But you're also, I have to ask you this, is that you were talking about being a school social worker, and on the teacher side, I could see kids that when they got to school, that was their peace, that was their safe zone, and when they left the school, it would be whatever. So you did that on a daily basis. So it wasn't like it was like, I have a student for this hour and that kid's gone. You were there every day at the school. How did that impact the way you see our society, that every day you're hearing somebody else's story?
Yeah, during my years, and it doesn't matter if you're looking at the days that I was a school social worker or principal or superintendent, when you are serving in a school, you see the best and the worst of society. Our schools are kind of a microcosm of the larger society. And so we're seeing kids who are from homes where, maybe the parents OD'd last night, or kids that are in foster care and they don't know where they're going to go tomorrow because they lost their placement. I mean, there's so many social issues, and we can get stuck in that. And that can bring up, like I was talking about before, that fear. It's so easy to allow it to bring up that fear and for us to get stuck in our head and to get in our own way. But that's why I say choose hope, because just like we have all those stories, and if we focus on those, it's going to limit us. It's going to limit our potential. We can choose hope, because there are just as many stories of the teacher who went out and they made sure that their student had food for the weekend, and they sent it home with them. And there is the paraprofessional who knew that this family moved, so they went out and bought a couch and delivered it to their home. There's so many stories, Vince, that I can share with you about that. But the problem with public education, one of the problems,
right?
We have a limited amount of time here. But one of the problems with public education is that the people that are seeing all of those powerful stories, where is their focus?
Right.
We have to focus on the things that are good. I'm not saying ignore the negative. We've got to make a change, and we've got to do things that improve our situation. But we also have to share out those good things, because in our brain, there's something called the reticular activating system. And it's the same thing that when you go out and you buy a red Ford pickup truck, Vince, you're going to start seeing them everywhere. It's the same thing with our schools. If we're just focused on the administrator who just chewed us out, or the parent that went to Facebook and completely, lambasted us as a school or as a teacher.
Right.
Wherever our focus is directed, that's what you're going to grow. So we have to be intentional about focusing on the good, highlighting the good, and sharing those stories with the people that aren't in the schools today and they don't see the good.
No, I agree. And that's why I hate to say, I'm not trying to give David Muir a plug for ABC News, but I do like at the end of it where he shows kindness in school systems and people going the extra tactical mile to make a difference. And I think people right now that are in college thinking about pursuing becoming a teacher, or people are about to graduate, which is happening right now, and about to go into the teaching field, how would you give them hope, Dr. Kelly?
Yeah. I hear a lot of people in the field of education discouraging future educators from going in the field. And the way that I would give them hope is just remind them to connect with their purpose. I mean, I believe God gives us all a calling.
Yes.
And if that is what God has laid on your heart to do, there is no other profession that you have the potential to affect as many lives as a teacher. You know, a teacher has 20 to 30 kids every single year, and they have a new class every year that they can influence and they can impact. And then you take those 20 or 30 kids that they have, and then the lives that those lives touch, it's exponential.
Right.
It's huge how much impact they have. So I would just encourage them to get to know who they are, get to know their strengths and how did God wire them, and connect with their purpose. And if that's what God lays on your heart, go for it. But surround yourself wisely with people that are going to encourage you and lift you up, because not saying people, you know, good or bad.
Teacher's lounge. I've been in the teacher's lounge.
Right. That's right.
There's a group. There's always the negative Nancy group in there.
You have to get away from those negative Nancys, and you have to invest in having that positive mindset, because the job is hard. Let's be real. The job's hard. And it doesn't matter if you're a teacher, a principal, a superintendent. The job's hard for different reasons. And sometimes we just look at what we can see on social media or what our parents tell us, or, you know, the external information. But I would encourage them to look inward.
Oh, that's great. So there's the thing is, I tell everyone teaching's like golf, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, look, you'll have 100 bad swings, man. Yeah. And then there's that one good swing. And I said, and it goes in the cup and you go, wow, you know, so you come back the next day. I said, you know, teaching has one thing that I have to honestly say this. When I was coaching football, I coached football at one school. I taught at one school. So one of the coaches said, hey, why don't you come to our school since you teach here, coach here? I said, how many lives are you impacting a day? And he goes, well, I got my class and then I got the football players. But I said, but those are the same kids in your class, right? He goes, yeah. I said, now think about me. I'm impacting every one of my kids in my A-Push in my political science class. Mm-hmm. And then I'm impacting a whole nother 82 kids at another school. So I said, so in the end of my legacy, it was never about the teaching, but how many kids' lives I'm able to change within my own community. And he goes, I never looked at it that way. And I think at times we forget that we're human ambassadors in the classroom, and that we set the standards, the culture, to put the next generation out in the world. And then whatever tools we give them that helps make society better, and good or bad. I say that all the time. But I think that we all have to shape things the way you said. And I really like how you're authentic about the word hope. Is that I think right now in the United States, we need a little bit of hope in a lot of areas, not just education. Yes. So if someone goes into teaching, I always say this to leaders like yourself, Dr. Kelly, what process did you put in place to like mentor the people behind you so that you saw that you make sure that, you know, when you left, Dr. Kelly left a sprinkle of Dr. Kelly in the building from somebody that's going to carry on your practices. So how did you kind of mentor the young people that came under you? Yeah.
So, you know, as a principal, I'll be honest, my first job as a principal was in that school that I grew up and I went through, and I was only there for 4 years. And so in that school, we implemented a program called the Leader in Me program. And it was really about fostering a paradigm shift, helping people with those mindset tools. And so in that school, it was directed more so, my time there, I directed that more so to the students than the staff. And then as I matured in my leadership roles and I went to different schools, one of the things that I struggled with, Vince, was getting my eyes off of me and getting my eyes onto other people to help grow them.
So what do you, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that, you know, that's powerful what you just said when it comes to leadership.
Mhm.
Why do you think that is? What made you have to do that self-reflection? Because that's a leader doing self-reflection, everybody.
Mhm. Honestly, it was through trial and error,
Okay.
because at the heart, an educator wants to help people. They want to educate, help, foster a love of learning, make the world a better place. It's all very good motivations, but we are human beings as well.
Right.
And we think about ourselves far more than anybody else thinks about us.
That's true.
And
That's a true statement.
we get in our head because we
Right.
think, oh, Vince had a neutral face whenever I said that, so he must think ABC.
CD, right.
And we put together these puzzle pieces because that's human nature, and we make
Right.
meaning out of everything, verbal and nonverbal. And so I invested in different assessments, different coaching programs to help develop my leadership skills. The Enneagram, the DISC assessment, the Working Genius. Those are just three of my favorites. And in doing that, I was able to understand my blind spots, my fears, my desires, and my motivations. And that helped me to become a better leader. And when I served as a superintendent, one of the things that I frequently told my principals is we have to invest in growing our people. And
Right.
that's going to look different in every school and in every district. But getting really clear on the values, the vision, and the mission, not words on a wall, Vince, but the values, the vision, and the mission that's driving us forward. And then making sure that the people that you put in the strategic positions are aligned.
Yes.
If we're
Yes.
in alignment, that's a surefire recipe for burnout. So make sure those people are aligned and then invest in them. I wish every principal could have an executive coach. Every superintendent needs a coach. That is just a non-negotiable. Teachers, they need an instructional coach. They need somebody who is going to walk alongside them and help them. Because whenever we're in the trenches, sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, and we need that person to help peel these layers of the onion back. Because when you're dealing with people, people are messy, and we need help peeling the onions back and seeing things as they are instead of how we're perceiving them, and then making those data informed but human centered decisions about the people that are really the main thing in education, and that's the students.
Okay, so the last big question I got for you, which is always the most complicated. So in the military, we went through a thing in the 90s and early 2000s was called toxic leadership, right? And then what we found out is that at one point in the military, we grew a bunch of leaders that now became senior leaders, but they were very toxic. And so the Army was trying to correct the problem they created by their ideology, but they didn't do a great job at it, but it is what it is. So I've talked to several teachers over the years, and I've had teachers step down, a principal step down, or take another job. What kind of advice would you give anyone that's listening when we run this on dealing with a toxic management situation?
Yeah, and I think in education, we're seeing that more and more all the time. There's a lot of people that I have talked to that are working in a toxic educational environment.
Right.
And a good test for that, Vince, is to ask yourself two questions. One, if I had a friend who taught, would I recommend her or him to come teach at my school?
Oh, yeah, yes.
And two, if my kid, or if I had a friend who had a kid, would I encourage them to live in this community and send their child to this school? If the answer to those questions are no, you need to get really clear on why those answers are no. You might have a toxic work environment there. And it's not simple. It's complicated. Toxic work environments happen for a lot of different reasons.
Yes, they do.
Sometimes it's boards. Sometimes it's superintendents and principals. Sometimes it is
Co-workers.
Sometimes it's coworkers. Sometimes it's all the above. But getting really clear on that alignment piece, and we teach people how to decide which job to take, right? Which job to apply for, how to apply. We don't have enough training on when to know when to walk away.
Right.
I think we need more training on when to walk away. When things are not in alignment, things are toxic, they're not healthy for you. Sometimes we just need to walk away. But Vince, I don't think I answered your question. Can you rephrase it?
No, you did answer it. Is it the fact? Yeah, you did. When you said that you got to make a decision to walk away, and in a toxic environment, I think that's everybody. Even in the military, when I got into certain jobs, that I realized the leadership's values, or I felt that it was passive aggressive. Yeah. There was times I said, okay, I didn't make a phone call, see what I could get. And it's not running from a problem. It's sometimes you have to save yourself, because you can't cure something. And it's in the war we live in today, and you still got to pay your bills. You still got to do what you got to do. So, you absolutely answered the question, because you said the key thing at the end of the day, you have to make a conscious decision whether you're going to stay with something or you're going to walk away from it. So before we get out of here, it's been great having you on, Dr. Kelly. But before we get out of here, I need to know one thing. If you could do anything different when you were, and now that you have all this experience and you've been at the superintendent, is there one thing that you reflect on you wish you could have done different?
That's a great question, Vince. When I reflect back, if I could rewind and do anything different, I wouldn't take away the experiences, because the experiences taught me, and they created the person that you see, for better or worse, in front of you today. But the one thing that I would do is, if I can, I'm going to say 3 things I would do differently. Okay. One, I would have advocated more for making an investment in the people. Okay. Myself coaching, my principals coaching, my teachers. Coaching is huge. And I think everybody deserves a coach, somebody who is in their corner unconditionally to help them be the best that they can be. The second thing I would do better, if I could, would be doing a better job of celebrating the milestones. Awesome. I am a type 3 Enneagram. And so I would meet a goal, and then I'd move the goalpost. We need to celebrate those wins. And then the third piece would be being present, being where my feet are, enjoying the journey and connecting with people more along the way. Those would be the takeaways.
Awesome. She left out her 4th one, man. You got to always have faith, because a guy that's been in combat will tell you, without faith, you have no hope.
That's right. 100%.
All right. So if somebody wants to get in contact with you and wants to learn more about your program, go ahead. This is your pitch. Let us know how to get in contact with you, and then what services you bring to the table.
Yeah, Vince. So as you can see on the screen, I have written 2 books, Lead with Hope, Building a System of Self-Efficacy. And that book is really the origin of my coaching framework. And then most recently, I've written a book, Spreading Sunshine with Kindness, Jensen and Rhett's Kindness Adventure. That is based off of my first 2 grandsons and my desire to share hope and kindness with the world. And I believe that we do that by starting with our children. Our children are our hope and our future. And so if you want to get in touch with me, I would love to connect with you, just learn more about you. Visit me at sparkhopeedu.com. There is a free call button in the upper right-hand corner. You can schedule a meeting with me, and we can talk about everything from speaking. I do keynotes, I do workshops, I do board retreats, or we can talk about coaching. I do leadership and executive coaching, and I would love to connect with you, learn more about your life, your leadership, and the legacy that you hope to leave.
All right, guys, keep it rolling. You heard that first from Dr. Kelly. So, guys, just wanted to throw this up real quick. Grayson's Clothing has a discount for teachers and first responders. Hey, they're a little pricey at times. Catch it when it's on sale. But, hey, guys, they're putting it out there. They take care of teachers, first responders, and the military, which, I'm always supporting the vets. And if you got time, check out my new book, Keep It Rolling. It's always up, it's the thing is about being motivated. It's kind of like a little David Goggins thing, is that some days you're going to fail and then you just have to get up and keep moving. And as I say, keep it rolling. And with that being said, Dr. Kelly, I appreciate you coming on. Keep it rolling today. It's been a great show. And, God bless you, Godspeed.
Thank you for having me on, Vince. And thank you for your service. And God bless.